Wolf here, and today for Modern Monday, our first in my series of going over modern decks, I decided to start off with something I knew a little bit about. Burn. Basically, the goal of Burn is to get your opponent from 20 to 0 as fast as possible using mainly burn spells. Spells that attack your opponent and do damage to them. Some of the nice things about this deck are it doesn't really care what the other person does. As long as you can get them from 20 to 0 and hit them with your critical mass of spells, you're good. That is what its goal is to do, and if it can do that, it's got a very good chance of winning as long as they're not faster, or, but I mean, I just don't really care what's on the other side of the table unless it's gonna kill me that turn. Another great thing about this deck is it's pretty simple to play compared to some of the other modern decks. Basically, you point your spells at your opponent, and if you have mana, you play them, and if you don't have mana, you obviously don't play any spells, but if you can play your spells, you play them, and you attack with your little creatures, and you just do that. It's pretty simple. I like that. No deck is without its weaknesses, and Burn's big one is life gain. It's difficult enough trying to go from 20 to 0, but when you have to go from like 25 to 0, or heaven forbid they get up to like 30 to 0, you just can't do it. You don't have enough spells that you can draw. It's just, it's really, really hard to deal with any sort of life gain, and it just shuts down a burn deck really fast. That's why there's cards like Skull Crack, Flames of the Blood Hand people play to prevent that life gain because it is so detrimental to Burn's plan. One of the other things is, since you have to have that critical mass of spells, Burn is very susceptible to mulliganing. If you just don't have it, and as you mulligan, you get less and less cards, and you have less of an opportunity to have that critical mass, and it's just really bad. Counter spells are very similar because if they counter any of your burns, you gotta make any of your burn spells, you gotta make it up somewhere else, and it just gets harder and harder to do as you draw into lands and not what you're looking for spells, mostly lands. It's when you draw lands that you're just like, ugh, I didn't need that. Alright, and the last thing I have to bring up in the weakness section is Leyline of Sanctity. I hate this card almost as much as I hate Mother of Runes, which, trust me, is a lot. I'll have to point to my one video. Leyline of Sanctity is awful. It's a 4-mana card, 2 colorless and 2 white, that basically says, you can't burn me in the face. Which is a problem. Most of Burn's spells are, you need a target, and you can't target your opponent if they have this card out. And what's worse about this card, like all the other ley lines, if you start with it in your opening hand, you can put it on the battlefield for free. So a lot of times what people do if they play against Burn is they'll have 4 in their sideboard, throw it in their deck after sideboarding, and then they'll mulligan until they get one. And then you just have to sit there and hope to goodness you have a creature, because otherwise you ain't doing nothing. Nothing. Alright, I'm looking at a whole bunch of different deck lists for Burn, because there's a lot of different flavors, but there's Naya Burn, Boros Burn, Mono Red Burn, basically. There's even 5-color Burn. Ugh, that just sounds scary. There's blue in there. Right now, Naya is the really big one. But in almost all of these Burn decks, you have the same subset of creatures. Monastery Swiftspear, Goblin Guide, and usually Eidolon of the Great Revel. Those 3 are the big ones. You also sometimes see Vexing Devil and Grim Lavamancer. And if it's a Naya deck splashing with the green, sometimes you'll see Wild Nycotl as well. So the spells we're pointing at people's face: Lightning Bolt, Rift Bolt, Lava Spike, and Searing Blaze. A whole bunch of 3 damage spells. Searing Blaze, you have to have landfall, but just keep your fetch lands, you'll be fine. Basically, they all say the exact same thing. Pay 1 mana, point it at your opponent's face, call it good, do 3 damage, and move on. If you're in a multicolored deck, there's also Lightning Helix, Boros Charm, which is actually one of my favorite spells. Like, it's up there on the list. I love that spell. And if you're splashing green, there's a Tarka's Command, which is fantastic in this deck too. Basically, most decks, land-wise, have mountains. And then they usually have quite a few fetches for triggering things like landfall on Searing Blaze, and if you're splashing any colors to go and get those specific colors you need. And then if you're also splashing with colors, you'll have on-color duels like the shock duels, there's the fast duels, and I think that's usually it on what... Yeah, that's about it on what you play, because you need your mana to come in untapped, because it's just better that way for bird decks. And any aggressive deck, really. Fast mana. Alright, so when you play this deck, basically, you just gotta mulligan till you find, you know, a good enough hand where you can get that critical mass of spells. You have just enough land, but mostly spells, so you can, you know, work on getting your opponent down and getting them dead before they can catch up and do anything. If you ever aren't sure what to do, play spells, point it at your opponent's face, and take them down. If you can save your fetch lands for Searing Blaze, do it. You want to trigger that landfall. 3 damage versus 1 damage, yeah, you're going to want to trigger that every single time. Also, another tip is to get rid of your more specific cards first, like if you have a sorcery per se and Lava Spike, you'll want to get rid of that before you get rid of all your instants like Lightning Bolt. It leaves you more open. And lastly, think of your creatures as burn spells. If you can get 2 to 4 damage off of them, you're doing great. Usually, 1 mana, 2 to 4 damage, you're hitting right at that sweet spot that you would want for a spell. And there you have it, Burn. I can't wait to play it some more. I love this deck so much. It is so much fun to play. It's great, and it's just so, it's so me. I just, it's wonderful, it's awesome, it's great. Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm not a pyro, I promise. No, I totally am. It's great. So yeah, leave a comment below what deck you'd like to see next. I want to do Infect because that's almost burn, but less red. But yeah, so leave a comment below what deck you'd like to see next. Let me know if I missed anything that needs to be covered in burn in the comments below too. Like this video and subscribe for more.